So I got a bit of a hot take for you today. Google I/O is going on right now, and I saw this article recently that talked about how Pixel phones aren't selling all that well. Now this is something I've been thinking about for a long time, but with all this news, it kind of felt appropriate to bring this up now. I don't think that Google should make phones anymore. To be clear, I'm not talking about Android. I love Android. I've been using Android since the beginning of my smartphone journey. No, I'm talking about the Pixel. And listen, I have nothing against Pixel, except that obnoxiously large notch. I think it's probably a great phone. I know for MKBHD, it's one of his favorite phones.
I'll just say it straight up. Pixel 3 takes the best photos of any smartphone camera.
I think it's just a bad business decision for Google to keep making these things. And it's for a lot of reasons, but we'll just cover 3 here. I think my second argument is probably my best, but we'll start here. Has Google ever made a premium price product that sold well? I'm sure there are exceptions to this rule, but when I think of Google made products that were wildly successful, I think of Chromecast, the Nexus 7 tablet, Google Home Mini. These are all products that offered an incredible premium experience, but were priced, at least at the time, at a you'd be too crazy not to buy it kind of price. It's kind of like this. Whenever I hear that Google is launching a new product, I get excited, but then I see something like the Pixelbook, and I'm like, that looks awesome, but there's no way I could justify spending that much on that. Now this next bit is just a theory, but I think even though Google typically makes really great stuff, I think people just have a hard time seeing Google as a premium product company. Here's the thing, when most people think of Google, they think very cool and free. They think of things like the Google search engine, Gmail, YouTube, Chrome, Google Maps, all of which are great things that I literally couldn't live without, but also free. And the second Google wants to charge for something, well, it better be really worth that asking price. Amazon has a similar problem because they're seen as this great bang for the buck brand. Think of their Fire tablets. But if you remember when they launched their Fire phone, it flopped hard. Being seen as a budget brand, they decided to do a 360 on people, and they wanted the price of an iPhone for their Fire phone. Also, it wasn't a great phone, so that didn't help. So yeah, I think the average consumer has a hard time buying a Google branded product for iPhone money. And listen, I'm not saying it's not worth it. I just think it's a branding problem, and when you've been giving away the farm for so long, it's kind of hard to get it back. Reason number 2, by making your own phones, Google, you're competing with your allies. I'd argue that this hurts Android as a whole. Here's why. There are 4 things that people consider when buying a new phone: the company making the phone, the overall design, the features and specs, and finally, the price. So if a company wants someone to buy their phone over the competition, they have to differentiate their phone in at least one of these ways. We've already talked about Google, the company, so I think that's covered. And the design of the Pixel, I think, is fine. It's a plenty premium product, except for the notch. But if Google really wants to push their phones into consideration, they have to focus on features and/or price. And there's the problem. Google designed and it updates Android on a pretty regular basis, but when they come up with a new awesome must-have feature, I would bet that at some point this conversation has taken place. So should we roll this out to all Android phones or just our Pixel phones? What do you think? Well, this has already happened a few times, and some of these features that have been kept off some phones and put onto Pixels are pretty awesome. Here are a couple. Duplex, which is a robot that can call businesses for you and make appointments. Phone screening, this is an even cooler robot that answers the phone for you, asks the person who's calling, and then transcribes whatever they say so you can then read it, and then you can decide whether or not from there if you want to answer the phone or not. Those two are some of the most futuristic and really, really cool things I've ever seen on a phone, but even they keep off simple things like the Pixel launcher. That's a really, really nice Android launcher skin just for the Pixel. And if that's reserved for the Pixel, then what is the default Android launcher now anyway? Now, all of this could change and these features could be available to other phones later, but as it stands right now, these features are just for Pixels. Well, I did actually hear recently that Duplex is finally coming to other phones a year after they announced it, but still, so I guess it was more of a timed exclusive. But this is a slippery slope, because what is to stop Google from making every really awesome new feature for Android exclusive to Pixel? I mean, Google, don't you want as many people as possible to be using Android? By holding back these features to push your phones, you are by omission weakening the Android experience for your partners, the people who have helped Android be the phenomenon that it is. And even worse than that, your Pixel phones aren't even selling well, so you're gimping the Android experience for almost all of your users. Not cool, Google. And that amazing camera on the Pixel 3, why not open that up to more phones?
Better than iPhone XS, better than red hydrogen, better than any Samsung or any LG phone.
Maybe you could even charge the different manufacturers out there like Samsung, LG, OnePlus, whoever, to use your camera hardware and software if they want your camera. I mean, wouldn't it be better if all Android cameras could beat iPhone and not just yours? So yeah, I don't think features is a good route for Google to be using to push their phones, but what about price? Should Google keep their phones the same and then compete with their Pixels on price alone? Well, I don't think it's that simple. Google is pretty unique because it could afford to take a loss on their phone sales and then try to make that back by making sales on the Play Store or by other means. But that would mean that their partners would have to lower their prices of their phones to also compete. Well, that doesn't sound so bad. What's wrong with that, you say? Well, we've already had issues with manufacturers of phones not updating their Android phones. And if they're making even less money per device as they sell them, where's the money that they need to pay their developers to keep their phones up with the times? I just kind of believe that Google getting into a price war with all their allies could sort of destroy the reputation of Android just with all of the security risks. Not to mention that Google selling their Pixels for a lower price kind of defeats the purpose of the Pixels if the goal of them is to make a lot of money for Google. Google actually did surprise me because they just announced the Pixel 3a at Google I/O, which starts at $400. It's not the most premium, but it's pretty good, and at that price, oh boy, we'll see how this goes. Okay, this video has gone a bit long, so let's wrap it up with my final point, and it's simply this. Google, you've already kind of missed the boat. Phone sales are not just down for Pixels, they're actually down across the board. People just aren't as motivated to upgrade their phones as they used to be. I get it, Google, you want to make that Apple money, like Apple makes like $500 or something crazy in profit on each phone sell. But even Apple is seeing that this market's exponential growth is sort of over. I'm not saying that Google couldn't launch a phone that does a lot better, but even Apple thinks that software and services are kind of where it's at when it comes to the future of making money with technology. So why not spend all of that funding and effort trying to compete with your Pixel phone into just making every Android phone better? Why not try to develop software that makes it easier for manufacturers to keep their phones up to date? If Android phones become more stable as a whole, that means more money for you in your pockets on apps and all the things that you can buy at the Google Play Store. And if you wanted to go the services route like Apple, well, there are going to be more users using Android if they know that it's a more consistent and safe platform. Anyway, that's it. I don't hate Pixel phones, by the way. I just don't really understand why Google is so committed to them. It seems like if they were more laser focused on making every Android experience a more premium experience, that would be a better long-term move. But Google keeps pushing their Pixels pretty hard, I guess, to make that Apple money. And I guess I just don't see a future where Pixel is a best-selling smartphone unless Google compromises Android as a whole. And I don't think anyone wants to see that. Remember the old Nexus days when Google was at the very beginning of making their own phones? They did this because the other companies making Android phones just weren't doing it right. But now it seems like they're just making these Pixels to just make money. I guess I just kind of miss the Google that just did awesome things and they were just like, you know what, we'll figure out how to make money with that later, but isn't this just awesome? But I'm done harping on this. What do you think? Should Google stop making phones, or do I just not get it? Please, whatever your take, enlighten me below. I would love to hear it in the comments and just have a dialogue with you. Also, while you're here, please let me know what you thought of the video with a like or a dislike. Also, it's like any day now that the channel's gonna hit 10,000 subscribers. So I just wanna say thank you so much for each of you who have subscribed. And if you haven't yet, maybe you can help us reach that 10,000 goal. We do all kinds of tech content. I try to make it as quality as possible. Now, I know I promised when we hit 10,000 subscribers, I was gonna do a studio tour and show you guys kinda how the sausage is made and just kinda what this room is like. And I am making that video right now. I will try to have it up as soon as possible after we hit that 10,000 subscriber goal. Please have a little patience with me. We're gonna be going out of town next week, so I'm trying to put it together. We'll see. In any case, I'll try to have it up as soon as possible. Thank you so much again. I guess I'll see you next time.